Hi guys! Right now I'm going to show you how to do wet, dry, try. Now this is only really going to work if you have a chalkboard at home, but there is a version of this I will describe at the end that you could play outside with some sidewalk chalk and maybe a bucket of water and a paintbrush. I hope that you can kind of visualize that as we go along. But for the real wet, dry, try, if you have a chalkboard at home, I have this little one that's on a stand. It's got a whiteboard on the back and a chalkboard on the front, so it actually is almost like the ones we use at school. But I also have this other kind of strange chalkboard that you could totally use, so any kind of a chalkboard would work for this. You will also need some chalk, right? And I've got inside here some little pieces of old sidewalk chalk because actually the smaller the chalk the better it is, although you could use any kind of sidewalk chalk. And I even have a small little piece of regular chalk here. If you have that, that's really the best, but sidewalk chalk will work. I've checked it out. And you will need some tiny little pieces of sponge that have been cut up to be very small. You can see how small that is. And I've dampened these sponges. That means I put a little bit of water on it. If you've done wet, dry, try at school, you remember how we actually get our sponges a little bit wet before we start. And then for the drying part, I like to use cotton balls because they feel so nice when I'm holding them. But you can also use little pieces of cloth. This is a rag that I cut up into a tiny square. But you want it to all be as tiny as possible. And the reason is because we're working on making this kind of hand placement right here. This is called a pincer grip, and it's the kind of way that I hold my fingers when I'm holding a pencil. And actually, if you have tiny things, your hand naturally goes into that position. So that's why we want everything in this work to be kind of tiny. So I have it set up in a tray right here, just like this. I have my chalkboard on one side. I have my wet, my dry, and my try. And my try is my chalk. Now, I happen to have an eraser that I found, so you can include that if you want to too, but you certainly don't need it, not for this work. Okay? For wet, dry, try, we usually have the teacher start by drawing a number on the chalkboard. Okay? In this case, I've drawn a 3. I'm actually going to go ahead and say how we draw all the numbers so that you can hear them carefully. So I'm going to start over with the number 1. Remember that we're always going to start in our upper left-hand corner, okay? That makes a border. If you're using a larger chalkboard, then you might want to create a border for your child and draw a square that they're going to try to put their numbers inside of, okay? Because it does help in terms of directionality. So, where do we start our numbers? At the top, at the top. Oh, where do we start our numbers? At the top, at the top. Oh, you better, better, better start your letter or your number. Oh, you better start your number at the top, at the top. So we're going to start at the top, in the top corner, and we are going to make a big line. That's it. That's a 1. So now we are going to wet, dry, try. So if the adult drew the 1, it works like this. The child will take the tiny sponge and do wet, where they draw the 1 wet. Obviously, they're going to want to do this flat down on the table. Then they're going to draw the number with dry. Dry. As you can see, you can still kind of see my number. Then we're going to try it ourselves. I can still see it, so I can copy it. It's a big line to make the number 1. Now, if you don't have an eraser, you can just use your little bitty cloth to take it off, and when you're ready for the next number. The number 2 is a big curve, little line. big curve to the bottom, little line. Okay? The reason that we use this language is because all numbers and letters in this type of language can be used using just big curve, big line, little line. So again, we are going to draw the number with wet. Okay. Draw the number again with dry. Big curve, little line. And then we're going to try it ourselves. Big curve, little line. Okay, there's your two. All right, this time I'm going to use my fancy dancy little eraser instead of my big eraser. All right, now we're going to make a 3. I'll show you how to do it with the sidewalk chalk this time. Okay, 3 is little curve to the middle, little curve to the bottom. Little curve to the middle, little curve to the bottom. Okay, and now you're going to wet, dry, try. Remember, I'm going to write it in wet first. Wet. I don't know how easy it is to see on the camera, but it does leave a mark, so it's easy to trace. And then dry. That still leaves a mark, even though it's hard to see on the camera. Perhaps you could see it if I angle it a little better. And then try yourself. Little curve to the middle, little curve to the bottom. Okay. Now, in the interest of just being able to tell you all the terminology we use for the other letters, I'm just going to tell you. So, 4 is little line, big line. Okay? Little line, big line. For 5, it goes little line, little curve, and little line for his hat. Sometimes I say, here's the man, his belly, and last is his hat. Okay? Number 6, it goes starting at the very top corner, goes big line down and a little curve at the bottom. Okay? And 7 is little line and then big line. Got it? See how we're using our borders to really help with not getting reversals. Starting in that upper left corner for most numbers. Now you'll see the difference for the last two. 8 starts in the middle. It goes little curve to the middle, and then we go the other way, little curve to the bottom, and then a little curve to close the bottom circle, and little curve to close the top circle. And you have an 8. And finally, 9 starts on the other side. It's one of the only numbers that starts on that side. So this one is little curve, and then it's going to be little line to the top, big line to the bottom. There's your 9. And of course, if you want to, you can always practice 10, which is big line to the bottom and start in the middle for your 0, which is a big circle right there. 2 big curves. Okay? That's how you do wet, dry, try. So don't forget, after each number, you're going to wet, draw it in wet, draw it in dry, and then try it yourself. Let's try it with this piece of chalk this time. This is another old piece of sidewalk chalk that I found. So That's wet, dry, try. Good luck. Have fun.